All right, here we go, guys. Welcome to the first AMA featuring Rodrigo, Luke, and Chris. I hope everyone is tuned in right now. I see there's the chat's kind of dying down. If we can get some love in the YouTube chat there, that would be sweet. Oh, there we go, Pablo. Yeah, there we go. What's up, Pablo? Pablo's going to get a tattoo of one hive, or sorry, Chewy's going to get a tattoo of one hive by Pablo.
Oh my god.
He's going to get X-dye chain right on his forearm, and then he's going to have some bees flying around it for sure. I told Pablo if he makes it good enough, I'll send him some honey as well. So I told Chewy if he does it, he's going to get honey. So let's see what Chewy's saying. Chewy, we're going to get the screen share going. Oh, we got lots of hearts, guys. We got lots of heart eyes as well. I think they're all looking at either Chris or Luke because everyone pretty much hates me so far. So who's getting the tattoo? The guy that's running all the tech stuff right now. Chewy, he's in the background.
And then I think Luke said if he gets a tattoo, Luke's gonna get a couple bee teardrops under his eye.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
that's
that's definitely happening.
Where we started.
I'm just messaging here. Give me a second, guys. We might have a bit of lag, so I just want to say the network right now is connected on Luke's account through Mexico where Chewy is, and then it's streaming all of us while I'm streaming the PowerPoint. So it's kind of a bit of a mix-up as I'm in North America, South America, we're all over the place. Well, I guess Mexico is not South America, so obviously, but you guys get the point. All right.
YouTube reports the stream is healthy, so that's good.
All right, perfect. All right, so I'm going to fire up the first question to Luke. Luke, how did you, the founders of OneHive and HoneySwap, join yourself to create the projects? Did you already know each other in real life?
Yeah, I mean, I guess first of all, I don't consider myself a founder of OneHive. I guess we've been calling it seeds to like early community members. Just because OneHive isn't like a company, it's more of a community and a DAO. But anyways, we started working on OneHive in the Aragon community. I met Rodrigo online. He was like pinging me on Keybase to give him ideas for projects to work on because he wanted to get involved. And through him, I met Fabry and Gabby and a few others, and we started working on a DAO, experimenting with different like DAO mechanisms. At the time, this was on Rinkeby. So we played around with bounties. We played around with kind of like pseudo salaries. We eventually used like dot voting for like a nominations process, and essentially just rapid iteration and experimentation on like community incentive mechanisms and just growing a community that could build things. And as we went, we were building more and more things. So at some point we moved to Ethereum. Ethereum gas fees got really, really expensive, as kind of most people know at this point. And so like our processes and the stuff that we were doing, including like voting and like issuing tokens, got really expensive. At one point, like it was like $100 just to like put up our like weekly like distribution proposal, and like $30 or $40 for every single person that was participating in that vote. And we were like, this just isn't tenable. So we migrated everything to XDAI at that point. We wrote like a blog post about that. And we had been using Uniswap on mainnet to provide liquidity for our honey tokens, so that people that like got rewarded in honey had some way to cash out if they needed to pay their bills. But when we moved to XDAI didn't have any of that infrastructure. It had cheap transaction fees, and we could continue to experiment. So as part of that, we deployed Uniswap v1 just so that we could use it. It was purely like we're we have this blank slate on XDAI. It solves this transaction fee problem, but like none of the infrastructure we're used to on Ethereum is there. So we just deployed it ourselves. We deployed Aragon ourselves as well. And then we kind of kept hacking. We did the faucet as part of the DAO hack month, integrating Bright ID as sort of a battle test there. And then during Raid Guild or Steakhouse's like XDAI-a-thon, we decided to upgrade our like kind of janky Uniswap v1 deployment to the full-on Uniswap v2. And that's what turned into HoneySwap. So we deployed that. We deployed accessory contracts that convert some of the fees to Honey, put it in the common pool. We deployed the like honeycomb farming contracts so we can incentivize liquidity. And we've just been iterating and experimenting since then.
Right on, man. This is awesome. I hope these questions, answer a lot of these questions that we've been getting constantly. So I'm gonna move forward to Chris. Chris is with Badger DAO, and I'm gonna ask him, what exactly is Badger DAO attempting to do, and how does the One Hive community tie into that purpose and goal? What are you trying to get out of us, in a sense?
Yeah, I wouldn't use the term "get out of you guys" because I definitely not trying to get anything out of it. But honestly, it comes down to just having a shared mindset and shared values, right? Like I think it's important for communities that have those same values to align and be stronger together. So Badger at the core is a DAO itself. The DAO is focused on really one thing, and that's building products to accelerate Bitcoin and DeFi. So that could be the bridges to bring, the trustless bridges to bring Bitcoin over when it's over, the applications to actually give it more use when it's on other chains. So as we're all pretty aware, Ethereum's like the main chain that there's any activity for tokenized Bitcoin today. So that's where we're starting with our products. So we're actually launching our first core product next week, which is pretty exciting. It's called SET. It's like a vault product where it automatically aggregates yield across a variety of different DeFi protocols on the back end. Except for us, it's only focused on tokenized Bitcoin. So we have a few very unique strategies at launch that don't exist today in the market. And then as part of our launch, we're also going to be giving Badger, our governance token, to anyone that uses our product. So if you use our product, you're in Badger. Badger is the token that governs the DAO and all of its products. So the users of the products in turn will be the people that own and control and manage the products. So that's really what Badger is about, and we hope to have 5-10 different applications over the next year. And our goal is really to make it as much of a developer-friendly environment as possible with the right incentives, so they get a percentage of any revenue that comes from the product. We have a dedicated Badger mining program just for developers. They get half of the fees that are generated through the Vault product if they provide strategies. So that's really what we're all about. And as it relates to One Hive, I think because of that shared mindset around decentralized governance, we're actually big proponents of supporting public goods as well. We're going to be airdropping about 10% of the Badger supply at the end of next week. Did
everyone hear that right there? Did everyone hear that airdrop? I don't see the chats going ham right now. Come on, guys! Like Badger's giving out handouts. Let's go.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, it's not a handout.
We need some questions for it.
That is because it's directly tied to retroactive actions. So it's not like, hey, here's a random. You have to have taken certain actions in a variety of different protocols. So for One Hive in particular, we're going to be rewarding anyone that's participated in governance with Badger tokens. And the reason why we're doing that is we believe those types of community members are the exact type of community members that share in those values and that would also want to participate and get involved in our governance, right? So that's the reason why we're doing that. And One Hive there's about 20 different groups. We just announced Wi-Fi today, and there's a bunch of others: Compound, Aave, Maker. There's a variety of groups. Gitcoin, of course. Anyone that's donated on Gitcoin in the past is going to be included. Anyone that's supplied or borrowed tokenized Bitcoin on Compound. So we're going to be announcing more every day, but I can proudly say that One Hive is part of that crew.
Nice, right on. Okay, I got tons of more questions for you, Badger, but I'm gonna go to Rodrigo now.
Well, I want to let me just throw in there, Josh, Rodrigo and Luke. What do you guys think about some of the stuff I just mentioned?
What?
You know, I already love Badger. This is more to showcase everyone, and we can see what others want to know about it. And let's see, I don't have Badger. I keep reading. I'm trying to read the comments. That's why I'm not looking directly at you guys. So I got 3 screens in front of me. Yay, airdrop.
I was just asking.
Don't have Badger.
What they thought, like what their thoughts are around DAOs and rewarding retroactive actions and things like that.
I've been pretty vocal across the board that I think one of the most important things for any crypto network or project is community, right? So I think the strategy that you guys are going with in terms of looking at people that kind of have an affinity to participate in community governance and build strong communities and kind of reward them to help bootstrap your own community is awesome. I think it's a strategy that will work well for you guys, and I hope to see more of it in the future. It's one of those things where we all can kind of win together, and that's great to see.
I do have a question.
So anyone can just copy it and take all the hard work we did in collecting all that data. I'm sure many people will. But anyway.
Oh no, it's already documented. So you're the first, man. This is gonna go. This is gonna be on YouTube for the world. So you're good. So let's just skip through here to Rodrigo. Chris, I do have more questions for you. So if you could just stick around for us a little bit longer. Rodrigo.
All good.
Yeah.
Perfect. What do you think about the new partnerships with other crypto projects like Badger and maybe other DAOs that we can do other things with?
Well, that is in what I thought is one of our strengths, since we have been in partnership with a lot of crypto projects since we started. As you might know, we started with something called the Dandelion template that was kind of a Moloch DAO, a Moloch version inside Aragon. Since we started with that, we have been helping kind of a lot of other projects to bootstrap their DAO based on what we did. For example, the PyDAO, LexDAO, a lot of more. But not only that, but our main product right now is, as you might know, the conviction voting that is running inside of the onehigh.org site. That is a mix between Common Stack, Block Science, and us. So there is a very strong relationship with another communities. And right now we are also running the source grid product that help us to reward contributors. So we have been for a while doing this kind of cooperation between different spaces and communities. And I think that we are doing pretty good, and we can do even better. We have a lot of stuff going on, maybe some kind of help between OneHigh, XDAI, and a lot of stuff that can be happening in the future. Yeah.
Yeah, also big shout out to Metagame and Bright ID as well.
Bright ID. Sure.
All right. Shout out to Pazdar. I love Pazdar. I don't know where he's at. He's always a good time, man. I hope he sees this and jumps in, man. Okay, so we got a few HoneySwap questions. It's not really OneHive related, so this could be kind of both Luke and Rodrigo, and maybe Chris too. What would you guys say that HoneySwap does that sets it apart from other DEX platforms?
Yeah, I can take a first crack at that. So I think there's 2 angles to this. One is the kind of surface level one. HoneySwap is on XDAI and transaction fees are negligible. So if we continue to see high congestion in Ethereum, there's an opportunity for more efficient trading on a layer 2 solution. And HoneySwap's really well positioned for that, and XDAI as a whole. has a lot of momentum with support from like Gnosis and Raid Guild and a whole bunch of other teams that are coming in, improving infrastructure, bringing more users into that particular layer 2 solution. So I think we're in a really good place there. The other piece that's interesting is that HoneySwap is connected to OneHive. And so OneHive, the focus has been on community and community governance. We had like a pretty massive growth over the past few months in terms of like community members coming into Discord. We've had like there's over 11,000 token holders, and you get this network effect of everybody kind of working together, improving, promoting, and kind of growing that ecosystem. So like HoneySwap has kind of anchored itself into that network effect, and kind of has like a circular like economic loop where increase in usage of HoneySwap benefits OneHive, and OneHive has this natural incentive to promote and support HoneySwap and make it the best place to trade on XDAI.
Right on. Chris, you want to weigh in on this?
I have a question for you guys as it relates to HoneySwap. What are you planning on doing, and what's the strategy to really help drive liquidity on HoneySwap? Right, and I think a good example of continued programs that have been able to catch interest and drive some awareness is what Sushi has been doing on their specific AMM. But I would love to hear what you guys are doing.
Yeah, so I mean, we have farming incentives that are kind of continuously funded and updated via conviction voting. So a portion of the like protocol fees get converted to Honey, put in the common pool, and then they can be redistributed to promote and support HoneySwap. And a lot of that is going into liquidity incentives for LPs on specific pairs. And so there's quite a bit of discussion happening within the community about the tactics and strategy around that, like how many pairs, how much to fund, what the timing should be, whether like there's a certain level of liquidity. And we've done some analysis based on mainnet gas fees and relative liquidity and slippage, what are like optimal targets for levels of liquidity on the platform are. So there's a proposal up on the forum. I think Blazar, one of the community members, has put it forward, and he's been working with a number of others on kind of doing data analysis. So there's a lot of discussion on that, and it seems like we'll continue to see sort of iteration and funding for liquidity providers to try and like bootstrap liquidity. And once you get enough liquidity, you get volume. Once you have enough volume, you don't necessarily need ongoing liquidity incentives. So we'll see how that goes.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting to see what happens with Uniswap in this week to come with their liquidity mining. I know today there was a pretty active proposal to keep the liquidity mining going, but at half of the rate. They were trying to get delegates to participate in that, just showing in some instances like how important liquidity mining incentives are, right? But yeah.
But how are they going to counter their fees? I mean, like for me, I'm farming on Honeycomb right now, and I can compound my stuff twice a day if I really want to. If I'm compounding my funds in Uniswap, you're looking at least a $10,000 investment to make that $5 to $10 US transaction fee actually worth it to do it.
Yeah, I mean the transaction fees on mainnet definitely like favor like really big whales. If you're transacting with thousands and thousands of dollars in a transaction, your like slightly larger transaction fee is not going to like break the bank for you. But if you're dealing with smaller amounts, those fees really add up. And the relative advantages of HoneySwap and XDAI are real for a lot of people. I also think that like as we get more stuff happening on XDAI just natively for those same forces, that kind of compounds in terms of like trading volume and liquidity for HoneySwap. So we'll kind of see both of those things evolve, like mainnet transaction fees pushing people over, more activity happening, and that kind of creating a positive feedback loop in terms of volume on HoneySwap.
Yeah, you guys really shine when the fees are through the roof, right? It's like the perfect, it's like a layup for you in terms of the value proposition, and that's why for the most part the last couple months I'm sure the light hasn't been shined as much on you guys as you would want to because the fees have gone down. But when they're ridiculous, which they're going to get to again very quickly, and they're going to get to again very quickly, and it's just going to keep happening, right? It's inevitable.
Yeah, I mean, blockchain and DeFi and all this stuff isn't going away, and like the scalability roadmap for Ethereum is essentially layer 2 in the short term, right? Like we've got ETH2 beacon chain launching, but really that doesn't give you any scalability in terms of on-chain execution. It like can help you with eventually like data availability, and that can improve kind of layer 2 solutions and their security approaches. So like really, I don't see DeFi type stuff having like a super long-term future on Ethereum proper. You'll end up having higher value like checksum type transactions as more of the like day-to-day usage moves to like layer 2 solutions like optimistic rollups and ZK rollups and XDAI. And we're really, really well positioned as that continues to happen.
Right on. So I have another question that can hit all three of you guys. So what made you guys go into the crypto world? Why are you guys in this crypto sphere right now? Tell me.
I'll start. This is year 8 for me, full-time in this space. So I've been around a little while. I joined the crypto space and I got involved with crypto because I just believe in an alternative path. You know, I'm not a proponent for the way financial systems work, really just the authoritarian reign. I'm not a libertarian by any means or anything along those lines. I just feel like we have the ability to forge our own paths in life, and a big proponent of that. And that freedom comes with, you know, money, because that's just the world that we live in, and how you use that money to forge that path. So, you know, that's why I believe in crypto. And, you know, I think the subsequent, like I was just talking last night with a few friends. I run a crypto poker game called Crypto After Dark, and usually it's like me and Charlie Lee and Bobby Lee and Ari Paul and folks along those lines. Peter McCormack joins all the time, and we always tend to talk about this type of stuff. And you know, the big thing as it relates to, you know, where things are going, it's great to see where Bitcoin has landed, right? Like Bitcoin is the de facto digital store of value, and I don't think that's going to change unless something unbelievably drastic happens. And then as we continue to evolve, financial applications, which are another great use case for, you know, digital assets with monetary value, to really bring more and more of that freedom that I'm talking about, right? So anyways, that's why I got into this space, and why I'm a big fan of crypto, of course.
Nice. What about you, Luke? You ready to go?
Yeah, for sure. So I got into this space in kind of the early 2017 cohort, as like that bull market started picking up and gaining attention. I found out about Ethereum. I had kind of remembered it from like the early ICO and kind of written it off, and that bit me. But once I kind of got that brain virus, I got super excited, because I realized that the technology was really like game changing, in the sense that you could create systems, like dynamic systems with economic incentives that improve coordination. So like that's really the promise of DAOs, in my opinion. It's what makes things like Uniswap or Moloch or Maker really function, is that you can encode additional rules that wouldn't naturally be there when two people interact. And you can apply economic penalties and rewards to those things. And if you design these systems well, they encourage specific types of behavior. And that's really powerful, because so much of the world's problems are actually like these large scale coordination challenges. When you think about things like global warming, you think about like nation states going to war. It's because incentives aren't really aligned on a macro scale to solve those problems. And the blockchain gives us the ability to create systems that align those incentives. So we're still super early in terms of like our sophistication for these things, but the potential there is to solve those really massive problems.
What about you, Rodrigo?
Well, my story is not so fantastic like your two other ones, but Gabi, one of the other member contributor from the beginning, he he went someday to a friend's house talking about investing, some kind of teaching them about crypto, and I was just there.
I hope he wasn't telling them to buy Ripple, Rodrigo. I hope that wasn't. That would be scary. Okay, if he's going to people's houses, telling them about Ripple, that's a problem.
It was in the 18th, and after that he told me, "Hey, I'm going to do this blockchain course to develop on blockchain. Do you want to do it with me?" Okay. And we did a course to develop on blockchain, and that's just after that. Gabi started to get involved with Aragon, and there I stepped into a really failure Aragon cooperative thing that we tried to do back on those days. That was a mess. And then Luke wrote to me, "Hey, come here." I was enlightened about the novelty to develop on the blockchain and all that kind of stuff. I still have no much idea about token economics. I I try to ask advice, but my main focus is trying to develop. That's what I like to me.
Right on, man. So let's get back to business, guys. I got a few other questions here. There's a guy named ICO News, and he's asking.
Great name.
He said that he wants some feedback on more of the Honey Swap token if it's possible. He thinks, would it be more beneficial to scale it like similar to what Polkadot did? Like cheaper the coin so people can get more of the Honey token? What do you guys think of that?
Yeah, I mean, we had actually considered when we were like working on Honey Swap and getting it deployed if we wanted to do anything more sophisticated and kind of push that off to like a V3. But at one point we were looking at whether we should do like a rebase type mechanism similar to YAM or Ampleforth, so that the unit price and the supply were dynamically scaled over time. So you experience growth in price and value appreciation in terms of unit count as opposed to just the supply, and then you avoid the like kind of psychological issue of like having to buy a fraction of a Honey or a fraction of a Bitcoin, because you kind of deal with a sort of stable unit of account. But the reality is like it adds a bunch of complexity, and you can just buy a fraction of a Honey. You can buy a fraction of a Bitcoin. So you can solve that problem in other ways. I don't think I think it's more of an education issue, and people should be educated that they don't need to have like a whole coin, like they need to have a whole stock. So I don't think it'll be a huge barrier.
Yeah, I mean, like even some of the companies on the Nasdaq are doing fractional shares as well, right? No, they're doing.
Oh yeah, Robinhood is all fractional shares now, just because they can do it on the front end, and it's been awesome. Like the barrier.
You guys watch Wall Street Bets or what?
Stonks, they only go up.
Stonks, baby, stonks. That's what we like to hear. So Rodrigo, what do you have to say about that, man? I know you're a seed member, so you've been here for a while. And what do you think of the Honey token?
Could you repeat? Sorry, because I was having some audio problems.
Yeah. So the original question was, the original poster said he wanted some feedback on the token if it's possible, and he said, would it be more beneficial to scale the token like Polkadot did, so do like a share split in a sense, or like what would be your insights on this, like how our token is right now?
Okay, like I said before in the previous question, I suck on token economic models.
It's okay. It's okay. You got a voice. You can voice your opinion.
No much idea of what is best or what is worse. Some time ago, Luke bring this idea of Ampleforth, and I say, why I'm going to want to have my number of token changed because of a protocol. Yeah, I had no much idea of that. But yeah, Honey is our token. Whatever the community thinks that could be good for the token. This is a big experiment. We can experiment, and if it's not in the good path, we can change it and iterate over that. Yeah, that's
Okay.
I
So,
the rebase, if
pardon me?
you guys don't mind, just even a little bit as well. I said I can add some color around rebasing tokens and the value they could potentially bring. So we actually built a product that we're launching in probably 3 or 4 weeks as our second product. It's called Dig, and it's based off the Ampleforth protocol, except it's pegged to the price of Bitcoin instead of the price of USD. And we're doing a variety of things around how you can leverage liquidity pools like Balancer, where you have other tokenized Bitcoin assets in there, plus a heavily weighted percentage towards your rebasing token, so you can better ensure the peg and the price stays there, and a variety of other things. But early on we were thinking to make our governance token a rebasing token, and we actually decided not to do that and to make it just a standard ERC20 for the simple fact of composability. And I think a lot of people overlook that. And in the summertime, rebasing was cool. Like Ampleforth went up like crazy, and then all these clones started. And I think there's something really awesome within the rebasing protocol, and specifically the game mechanics that are naturally built into the protocol that solicit buy and sell activities. But as something that's used for governance, as something that needs composability into other platforms and protocols, it doesn't make as much sense in the existing iteration for why you should use a rebasing token for those features, right? So anyways, just a little bit of color what we went through.
So, I mean, we're talking about Honey token. You want to tell us a bit about, the Badger and Dig tokens? Like, what are the kind of tokenomics behind that?
Well,
Can
as
you
you
dive
would
into
imagine,
details?
being that we're all about Bitcoin, and we're called the Badger DAO. Our Badger token is the governance token for the entire ecosystem. So that includes every decision made within the DAO and control of all the protocols that the DAO's built, including Dig, as I mentioned already, and then also to start our set vault product. So people that own that token will be able to make any parameter changes, any real decisions as it relates to the underlying products. And Badger in particular, the tokenomics of Badger, we tried to keep it as simple as possible. We have a 21 million fixed supply, which I'm sure people can understand where that's come from. But, nonetheless, the way that we wanted to go to market was to be completely community first, and to represent that in how the tokens were distributed as well. So for us, it's pretty much all being given to the community. We are starting with a certain token amount, and that token amount is then being used for liquidity mining, for airdropping. We're also going to be giving 2% of our supply to Gitcoin to be used for future, hackathons and grant programs and donations and things along those lines. And, really, and we were talking about this a little bit, Dash, before the call, but, we really wanted to, like in bootstrapping our DAO, we really wanted to understand, we first started with, okay, we can allocate a certain percentage of our governance token to the DAO treasury to be used for treasury focused things, but also for additional incentive programs and stuff like that down the road as new products are released, or we want to turn on other incentives for existing products. But then we realized that that was problematic when we started to see, just naturally, in our space, tokens go up and tokens go down and tokens go up and tokens go down. And when you're trying to bootstrap something and you need to use that capital as operating expense, for operating expenses in particular, it makes it really difficult if you rely on the token. So for us, that made us shift gears, and that's why we prioritize building our yield aggregator product set, our vault product, because that inherently has revenue. And the way we switched it was, you have to use that product to be able to earn our governance token, rather than, hey, here's this random farm and, you know, put these token pairs there and get the token, that really would do nothing for your ability to bootstrap and bring value to the DAO. So for us, we're still allocating a percentage of our governance token to the treasury for other things, but we're also going to be, we've prioritized, if you use our Vault product, you will get Badger during the 8-week program. And then we're also trying to do some things to incentivize longer stakers and reward people that come early. So the longer you're in the product, the higher the Badger reward multiplier will be. So if you're in for 3 weeks, it's 2x. If you're in for the full time, it's 3x, for example. And ideally, that gives an even playing field. And that was inspired by what Ampleforth has done with their geysers. But nonetheless, that's the purpose of that, is to give earlier and longer product users the benefit over people that can come in with like 10 million bucks and drop it in for like 5 days or a week and then leave. You know, people that put, you know, 1/10 that but keep it for the whole time will probably end up getting more than the people that did it for a week or two. So that's how we're approaching it.
Nice. So you guys got a nice time variable there for a little bonus. That's awesome. So this kind of pertains to both DAOs actually. We have we're releasing what's called Celeste. It's kind of honestly, I don't even know I can't even physically explain it. It's kind of like a judge jury thing, and we got a lot of questions about it. So I want Luke to fire it off first, and then I want Rodrigo in there, and then I want Chris to answer it and see how he's going to be like, how his DAO or the Badger DAO, how are they going to integrate these sort of procedures within their community?
Yeah, I'll give a quick summary of Celeste, which is kind of based on the Aragon core code base. We've modified it because we need to put it on XDAI so that we can use it. And we've modified it so that the amount that you can stake in the protocol is limited by Bright ID, which has some interesting effects. But the overall utility of the mechanism is a subjective oracle. So you can use it to resolve prediction markets. You can use it for dispute resolution. You can use it for like decentralized escrow services. And the primary reason that it's so important for OneHive is that we want to encode our community covenant, our values, kind of the general like minority protections into our proposal process. So we use conviction voting primarily, but if you're using a standard vote, like you still have to worry about minority interests, especially if you're using token-based governance. And there's certain types of proposals that even if they do have sufficient support, you might want to be able to block them. And Celeste allows us to do that. So like if somebody comes in, creates a proposal to go fund like some terrorist organization with honey, we really don't want that, even if they happen to hold a bunch of honey and could pass that proposal. We want to be able to like dispute that, say that that's not really what we're all here for. Regardless of how much honey you hold, that's not acceptable. And so we'll be able to do that as part of our proposal process. But it's just sort of the tip of the iceberg. We can use it for escrow type things. I want to do this thing called Honey Quest, where anybody can submit like various tasks and kind of bounties associated, but like people can just claim them. And if there's no dispute, they get the money. If there is a dispute, we resolve it via Celeste. So it gives us the ability to encode human values and language instead of just smart contracts in our mechanism design.
Right on, man. This is the type of info a lot of people have been looking for. I know there's been a lot of issues with how do we handle whales just putting in whatever they want, and they can pretty much just fund their own projects and go from there. So I think this is going to be a great solution.
Yeah, I mean,
for it.
there's this big problem in token-based governance that like people don't really talk about. A lot of these like DAOs are actually just multi-sigs right now. But if you actually look at DAOs that do token-based governance, there's this concept of a 51% attack that like nobody really tackles. But let's say you've got a protocol like YFI or whatever, and they hand over governance to token holders, which is kind of the intention. And somebody creates a proposal that says, let's drain all of the vaults, drain the protocol of value, and anybody who votes yes gets a proportional share. If you can encode that like bribe on chain, there's like a game theory problem there, where it's like rational to just take the money and run, because you're even if you don't want it to happen, you know that if you vote no, it may still happen and you're super screwed. You're like doubly screwed. This kind of goes back to what I was talking about in the beginning of what got me into crypto, is that like you can use these smart contracts to really change the like incentives and disincentives for things. And that can be used both for good and for bad. In the case of like a 51% attack contract, it's kind of a dick move. But it's a dick move that like the response isn't clear, right? You're kind of putting people into a prisoner's dilemma where they're potentially not going to choose the option they would like to, because it's optimally or economically rational for them to defect. And so like being able to prevent those types of things, mitigate those things by adding a layer of like human discretion or like checks and balances in the governance process is really, really important. And something that like I think most of the like DeFi DAO governance space is lagging behind a little bit on, probably because they're mostly just using multi-sigs.
So I mean, this sounds great, but we got a few issues arise already in the chat here. They're saying, how is Celeste gonna be decentralized? Like it sounds very centralized.
It's not centralized at all, actually. So anybody would be able to stake honey. They're limited by Bright ID, which improves the decentralization. So you can't have like one big whale. I hold a lot of honey right now. Like if I participate, my ability to influence the outcome will actually be restricted, because I'll only be able to stake a certain proportion of my balance, opening it up to a much wider set of inputs. And the way that it works is that when you create a dispute, you draft a certain number of staked participants. If there's an appeal, you draft a larger set until you are selecting from the entire set, and you're balancing both stake and Sybil resistance provided by Bright ID to ensure that you actually have a much more decentralized system than if you're relying on just stake.
Let's just see here. There's a lot of technical stuff going on there. Let's just see if anyone has any more questions that need to be answered.
Well, I'll just chime in. Chime in. One of the communities that's lagging behind, that faces like, call a spade. Our token's not even live yet, and so that's a good thing. It's not like we've been live for a long time, and I'm admitting that. But no, like that's one of the things that we've talked about at length, especially in its the early you are, and like for us in particular, like designing our liquidity mining program for launch, we really needed to dig into the potential scenarios where things like that could happen, right? Where in our scenario, we have such a large percentage of our supply in the DAO treasury, early whale, someone can put in $50 million, which is very doable. Someone can put $50 million and mine a lot, if not all of the Badger that's available in the liquidity mining event, and then potentially have the ability to say, okay, we want anyone that holds Badger gets all of the tokens from the DAO treasury. Like we're just going to distribute it, or drains all the vaults, or like they can do all these types of things. So for us, at least, what we did was we gave ourselves almost a 45-day time lock on the DAO treasury that no one can touch, including obviously the DAO, but no one can touch that DAO treasury until after those 45 days, with the intention of having reasonable distribution in those 45 days and building some human layers to the DAO decision and dispute process. So Luke, to that point, you guys have gotten much deeper. I want to take this offline and get some feedback on what you guys are, dig into Celeste a little more, because that's the exact thing that we've talked about. We haven't spent the amount of time that we need to, just because we've been so overwhelmed with obviously just getting to the finish line for launch. But that's like a top priority. Be happy to hear that you guys are tackling that, because you're right. you know, a lot of projects and protocols, first and foremost, aren't, you know, DAOs at the pure sense. Most of them are just multi-sigs. But even still, like if they start moving towards that direction, these are the types of things. And that's probably why a lot of people haven't thought about it, because this moving that direction, and DAOs are so unbelievably immature and young. And the technology layers on top that can even enable you to do certain things like you're talking about are also very immature, right? Naturally.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's what I hope is going to evolve, and it has to evolve. And if it doesn't, it's extremely problematic. And we're going to see, you know, there's a lot of things we're going to see, especially around DeFi protocols. Naturally, we're going to see people take advantage of different tools and techniques to hack or exploit capital. We're going to see DAOs be taken over and governance be controlled by malicious actors. We're going to see a lot of this stuff, as we've seen with 51% attacks on blockchains, right? It's not going to be too dissimilar.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's going to happen. It has to happen, actually. And that'll be part of the learning curve and growing process, because from there, you need some slaps in the face from something that's close to home to say like, oh shit, we gotta get focused on this. You know what I mean? And that's just naturally what happens in general for any space and any kind of rising capital.
We're all pioneers right now. Like the stuff's going to improve and mature over time, but it's sort of our responsibility to try and map it out and be cautious and figure these things out. One of the things that like I don't know, I get really inspired by like Bitcoin and the governance minimization philosophy when it comes to DAOs. I think when we look at the DAO space, a lot of it looks like multi-sigs, or it looks like just like voting on everything. But there's a lot to be learned from kind of the governance minimization, automation at the center that you see in things like Bitcoin, and how it's sort of grown up and thrived by minimizing the argument surface area. And there's obviously trade-offs there. Like if you can figure out how you can be more flexible, be more adaptive by incorporating governance without bringing in a lot of those downsides, I think there's a lot of potential there. But it's very much like a mixed bag and a design space that like we haven't fully explored yet.
Mm-hmm. And the answer is probably not give anybody that holds the token the ability to make decisions. That's probably not, you know, the end all be all. I think it's where we're at now. I think it's a good step forward, but who knows what it ends up being. You're on mute, Dash.
I think you are muted.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yep.
Hello? Yeah, sorry guys, my phone's about to die, so I had to make a quick charge here. So I'm going to move into just a little bit of the future of, you know, Honey and the future of Badger. So I want to talk about long-term and mid-term goals a bit. So Luke, I want to ask you, how does XDAI fit into the Ethereum scalability roadmap? And, you know, as an L2 solution, if F2 came out, would we be able to implement whatever OneHive builds into their stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I was actually just on a call this morning with Igor and some of the XDAI team, and we actually talked about this a bit. So like XDAI a while back kind of announced their like intention to kind of go with the Ethereum 2 roadmap and kind of eventually become sort of an execution environment. The really nice thing about XDAI right now is it's super compatible. It's basically the Ethereum code base running as a sidechain to Ethereum, and the same technology that's going to be required to turn Ethereum 1.0 into a shard in Ethereum 2.0 applies to XDAI. And so if we eventually get to that point, everything sort of converges, but we can still like build and use things now. The other thing that I'm looking at really closely, and we talked on the call today, is things like ZK rollups, and as being like a shorter term scalability solution that inherits the security of Ethereum, are on the horizon. And Vitalik was posting about like a rollup centric scaling roadmap for Ethereum 2.0. And I think the general like sentiment that I get from the XDAI team and the general sentiment I get from the XDAI community is when these solutions for like inheriting security from Ethereum and scaling Ethereum in a more direct fashion with rollups are production ready, it makes perfect sense for the XDAI chain itself to roll into one of those solutions. But because they're not quite ready, we can actually still build and scale today. And so like what we're seeing within the XDAI community is this emphasis on compatibility. We're able to bring things like HoneySwap over. We've got cool projects like Gnosis and DX DAO and Prime DAO and Raid Guild and Foundation, which is really, really awesome, launching on XDAI, colonies coming over, basically taking advantage of the scalability benefits today, and then converging on whatever the like technology ends up being for scalability over the long term. And I'm really liking that approach, because it's not like the kind of it'll be ready tomorrow or next month or 2 weeks from now, kind of like scalability stories that you see from some of these like more technical solutions. We can actually start building value today. We can ease some of the like congestion problems on Ethereum today. And when those like technical solutions become production ready, we'll actually already have a thriving ecosystem ready to just plug into that.
So we could pretty much make it plug and play is what you're saying.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's how the Ethereum 1.0 like chain right now migrates to Ethereum 2.0. So we can do the same thing with XDAI.
What about Badger? How does that tie in with F2?
Well, for us in particular, we're trying to approach the layer 2. So like everything that we have today is layer 1. One of the things that we actually decided not that long ago, I say not long ago, like a couple weeks ago. So we were using the pretty complicated geyser methodology on the back end for how we distribute Badger rewards. And it just continued to get more and more complicated as we introduced new and additional kind of complexities to it. So what we're actually doing is we're moving more towards like a Merkle distribution model, even for the rewards of liquidity mining. And for that, it's like 90% cheaper than doing everything as part of the smart contracts for the geysers. But the reason why I bring that up is because we're really just starting that journey, right? Once again, like this is one of the reasons why I wanted to get synced up with the One Hive communities, because you guys are part of like the bleeding edge on how you integrate things like XDAI, which we want to look into, and that actually can be a really cool collaboration for us. Like one of the things that I want to do together over the next month or two is find ways to drive and incentivize liquidity on HoneySwap, and that would in turn translate to bringing Badger over to the XDAI chain, which we haven't done yet and we intend to do. So that could be a cool collaboration for us and could be one of our first forays into those types of side chains. But we're, anybody that's building a DeFi protocol or any type of protocol on Ethereum today, if you're not thinking about layer 2, you're not thinking about that type of stuff, like you're doing yourself an injustice, because it's as plain as vanilla. Like everything that we've seen time and time again, rewind 3 years ago to CryptoKitties, fast forward to DeFi summer, like this is without even retail touching stuff, right? Like this is just a bunch of, whales and long-term crypto fanatics like playing around with some fun things. So just imagine, and ETH2 is, I'm very optimistic about ETH2, but ETH2 in it's like a functioning sense, it's not around the corner. Like when we're talking about January, that's not like, oh shit, everything's like on ETH2 now, and like no, that's not even close to what's going to be happening. So I think everyone needs to focus on that, including us. So that's how we're looking at it.
Right on. So I mean, with future things, we also need to talk about issuance. And I know a lot of people have been talking about that, and I know Luke's already smiling. I can see him. Yeah, you guys, tell me a little bit about issuance. Pretend I didn't read anything, and I am a brand new user. How does it work? Like, why are you guys inflating my coin?
So right now, One Hive has a like percent percent of the supply per block issuance rate. Works out to be approximately 60% per year. There's an active proposal to cut that in half as like a temporary measure. Everybody's pretty aligned that this is too high. It was kind of like a pretty naive policy that we did while we were like bootstrapping when there wasn't a tremendous amount of stakeholders, and we just wanted honey to be circulating and flowing through the system while we were focused on like optimizing conviction voting, optimizing for like products and stuff like that. But as the community has grown, we've got way more stakeholders now. Coming to consensus on difficult topics like issuance is difficult. And so we want to move to a policy that has much less discretion, much more certainty over time. So there's a contingent in the community that wants a fixed issuance policy, like fixed supply, similar to like Bitcoin would have. Others want a more, like myself, want a more dynamic policy where we have like an upper limit on issuance, and we create an incentive for people that are allocating resources to optimize for inflows to balance out issuance. And this kind of, if you're familiar with sort of the maker supply policy, where you like are focused on burning maker over time as people use the system. But then if you fuck up on risk parameters and there's like a backstop, you actually mint a bunch of maker. So you don't have a fixed policy, but you've created an incentive for you as governors using the token to actually perform well. And we can do the same with honey and a dynamic issuance policy where issuance can be zero so long as we are cultivating enough inflows from things like HoneySwap or Celeste or whatever other products we decide to build and promote. But in the event that we don't have enough inflows, there's a trend for the system to self-correct and ensure that there's always like reserves in the common pool to take action and take advantage of opportunities that present themselves. So I've been working on updates to our kind of CAD model, which is a framework for doing complex systems design work that we use to model conviction voting. And I'm working to add like the dynamic issuance policy to that so that we can present it as sort of a formal proposal and upgrade the organization to a more kind of permanent solution with less governance discretion over issuance. And I'm really, really excited to kind of share more of that in the coming weeks. But essentially, like issuance is important, and we want to like minimize it as much as possible while ensuring that the DAO remains resilient and able to kind of allocate resources to new opportunities.
Right on, right on. We got cut off there for a second. We had a little technical glitch, so our screen went. Our screen was saying thank you for watching, but we're still talking. So if you guys want to hop back on, we still got Chris to tell us about how they're planning to issue it, down to the technicals. If he wants, I know they haven't released their stuff yet. So if Chris wants to fill us in about Badger and how they're planning to do these things. Chris,
Dash, I can do that, no problem. And I just say, after that, I gotta hop off. Actually, it's 3 over here, but I went over quite a bit of it already. But we're taking a pretty simplistic approach. Badger is the governance token. It has a 21 million supply. It's fixed, can't change, and it governs the products of the DAO and makes all decisions within the DAO. We're using an Aragon DAO structure. And if people are familiar with that, the control of the different apps within there are going to come from the DAO agent, which essentially is a smart contract, and the ability for that smart contract to make changes is going to come from different on-chain votes. In terms of how we use those tokens in the beginning, and this was a little bit of a point of friction amongst the team, but originally we were going to day one, token goes live, like complete DAO, no control by anyone. And we decided to take a step back there for a second to make sure that the products were semi-stable before really going over to that point. Now, the way that we're doing it is it's a little bit of an in-between, to which the DAO, you can vote to change our ability. And what I mean our ability is really just like this developer pod that can change different parameters on the products, nothing to do with token supply or anything along those lines, or underlying assets on the platform. But the DAO actually can remove the rights from them. So we've put it where the DAO dictates who is in, who has control as part of that developer pod, and then by voting, the community can relinquish those controls. So we start with that, but if we're not doing a good job, it's the community's decision, and they can relinquish those controls immediately. So we've, that's what we're trying to have a little bit of a mitigation, where we're still, the DAO still controls everything and inherently controls the people that are able in the back end to make any changes to products, while making sure, and we're actually going to be releasing a transparency report really shortly after launch, where we take our code and we transcribe certain pieces of our code that show that we can't do malicious things, even with some of the control parameters in place. And we transcribe that for non-technical people to understand and digest. But anyways, that's how we're approaching it. And like I said, the tokenomics of Badgers is pretty simplistic. And what we have is, we kind of have two pools, reward pools. We have, for those that use our product, you're going to earn Badger, and then we have a developer pool. So for developers that come into our ecosystem and build products or build strategies for our vaults, they're going to have a whole dedicated pool that's actually even quite substantial in size, that they're going to get rewarded based on the percentage of the overall revenue that they're contributing. So for example, if they've developed a strategy for our vaults, and that strategy is so unique and cool, and it garners such a high level of total value or capital into the system, they will then, and that represents 80% of all the capital and revenue that's coming into that product, they essentially will garner 80% of that allocated pool of Badger rewards. And then those Badger rewards are, once again, the governance token. So they then will have even more control around the product that they're contributing to, which, like, that cycle, I think, is very important. If you just gave someone that was contributing to a product from a development standpoint a random token, even if it's worth a lot of money and they make money, that doesn't give them a sense of shared ownership and skin in the game to continue working and developing that product that they've built, and really thinking about the best interests of the product and the community versus themselves. So that's the type of loop that we're trying to build within our ecosystem, on top of being distributing half of any of the revenue that we get from our product like Set to the developers that build the strategy. So we're really trying to take a page out of Jörn's book, and we really aspire to create a developer-friendly community as they have. But for the most part, that's our token structure, and that's how we're going to market.
Right on. I pretty much have only questions for Honey guys now. So yeah, if you got to run, I know Badger's got a lot of stuff going on. So yeah, feel free to exit whenever you want. But this question is something that's going to hit close to home for everyone, especially some of the bigger guys. And it's actually directed to Luke, but I'm gonna change it and make it to Rodrigo, because he's been a little bit quiet. So are you worried about the fact that the honey price is actually being dumped hard right now? What's your thoughts on that?
I'm just gonna say before you answer that, I'm just gonna say bye, guys.
See you, Chris.
Thank you
Bye
for having me.
Bye, Chris.
Fantastic. I really enjoyed the conversation, and I'm looking forward to collaborating more with OneHive moving forward.
Yeah. Looking
Right
forward
on, man.
for that collaboration space.
Have an amazing day, dude. Take
See
care.
you.
Thanks, guys. Ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
So tell me, who's sweating about the honey price right now?
I mean, I think that anybody likes when a token that you are holding drops down. So in that way, I mean, but I think this is crypto. Crypto is a roller coaster. This is a project in a really early stage. But if you think that in the fact that when we started with all that, honey doesn't even have a price, and right nowadays have a price, it's going to be a token that is going to be useful for some stuff. It's up to the community to kind of give it the utility to the token to be a more valuable token. I think that the cool thing around all that is that we can iterate over we are working. If we see that things are not working the way that the community think that should work, we can do the adjustment needed or what the community wants to do. I'm looking forward for Honey to be up again, who cannot be in that have that sense. But yeah, all that I have to say that is not only the seed member, but I'm seeing a lot of people working really hard to keep going with this fantastic project. Yeah, I'm not so worried about the price right now, but yeah, it's up to us to keep it growing. But we always need to remember that we are in crypto.
Yeah, for sure. That comes with a certain risk, but also a certain reward. So yeah, Luke, what do you got to think? Do you agree with Rodrigo there?
Yeah, I mean, I've written quite a bit about this on the forum. If people haven't seen it, I would definitely recommend checking it out. But like, for me, I think everybody should be worried about the price to a certain degree, but also not panicking. What we need is to make sure that we're consistently creating value. We're allocating resources towards things that create value, and in the long run, that will pay off. Essentially, I see Honey as sort of the like lifeblood of the One Hive DAO. So if it is something that like we don't work together to create shared value around, we're not going to succeed. But if we are kind of aligned around shared value creation over the long term, we have a really like resilient mechanism. So like the price is going to fluctuate based on a lot of stuff that we don't control, right? Like there's market sentiment that shifts when BTC goes on a tear. When prices in the gas market on Ethereum fluctuate, it's going to impact us. When layer 2 solutions like roadmaps change, it's going to impact us. The things that we can control are how we are allocating resources, how we're working together as a community. And I think if you're one of those people that is kind of around for shared value creation, you're down to like work together and you continue to work through any sort of downturn, it's actually really advantageous for you when the price goes down because you're going to get a much greater share of the upside when it goes back up. So I just sort of advocate, and I said this in my post, create a model for One Hive, create a model for Honey of how you see it progressing into the future, and then base your actions on that. If you are planning on participating in the DAO and you think you can actually have a positive impact, that's alpha for you. Because if you have internal information about what you're going to contribute, you have inside information essentially that's going to tell you that there's going to be more value in this thing than the general market may perceive because they don't necessarily know what you're going to be contributing or the value that you're going to bring to the table. So I guess what I would say is like we should all care about price because it's what makes this work. It's kind of the KPI for success, and we want the number to go up. But don't fret too much if the number is going down because it's an opportunity for people that are going to create value.
Right on. So really what you're saying is if we want the value to go up, we just got to keep buying more, right?
I mean, yeah, if you,
Okay.
I guess what I would say is if you know the value is going to go up because you're going to create value, Honey's on sale.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like I know that Fauna's been saying, you know, we're the 10K club. We expect the Honey token to be 10K. So, you know, we do have some crazy goals.
I have even grander ambitions than that.
Oh, there you go. So Luke's at the mill. So Luke's going for the mill. Rodrigo's smiling over there. He's at probably 100K or so. So yeah, like
I'm one of the guys that not so interested. I'm personally on the honey farms on that kind of. I know that those kind of things brings value to the community and pumps the price and all that of things. But I'm more of the idea that we should think in cool stuff that makes Honey a really valuable token to use. What I mean with that is we need to think in pieces of software that needs Honey to run, and those pieces of software that are going to be really used. So we now have on the horizon Celeste, but we need to think in another use cases for Honey that makes it unique, or at least valuable. Yeah.
Right on. I kind of want to wrap this up because my phone's about to die. So let's just read through the chat here if we got any. Someone's saying Iron Heads to 1 mil. Oh, Josh B. Yeah, buddy. There you go. Iron Hand Josh right there. What's up, man? He's gonna hold it to 1 mil. So there you go. You guys you already have guys holding it for 1 mil. So yeah, I just want to close this all up. Luke, do you got anything else to say? Rodrigo, what about you? Anything you want to say to the community? Maybe some encouraging things for moving forward from, kind of the drop of where we are right now.
Yeah, I would.
Go ahead, Luke.
I would say if you're not already, join our Discord. That's where a lot of the conversation is happening. Whether you hold Honey yet or not, you can have an influence on OneHive just by showing up. If you see something that you think should be changed, the best place to start is to show up and vocalize that. OneHive is kind of taking on a life of its own. And we're all here working together to make it succeed.
Nice. What about you, Rodrigo? You had something to say?
Yeah, almost the same. Glad to be here. Glad about all the things that's happened within this community. Glad to see people that just joined us when we created the Discord. Like, we don't know from where they come. They just joined it, and they are really valuable members that we cannot make it without them. The Fauna team, all the people that is working really hard on marketing, the Bass channel, all this stuff is people that, is making this happen, is making this kind of having this community is kind of a dream. So yeah, keep up with the great work, and welcome to any newcomer.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for your time. I hope this reaches a lot of new people, and I hope it brings value to what we're trying to do here, what we're trying to promote. And let's just close it off here on a high note. I'm just going to put in our last slide here. I kind of forgot. Oh, there's an error for screen sharing. Okay, that's why it wasn't working before. So yeah, let's just close it off. I'm just going to say one more time. My name is Dosh. And this is pretty much the end of our first AMA, and I hope to see many more. Have a good one, guys.
See you,
everybody.
Bye-bye.